So I now have the pleasure of introducing University Hospital's CEO, Cliff Megerian. He's been a singular individual in his support of Harrington's mission, partners, and people. Because he is a physician scientist himself, and because he is a brilliant builder of programs and organizations, he has supported us in a way that is to be admired in the realm of drug discovery. In 2023, representing the 30,000 employee organization he oversees, Cliff traveled to the UK for the launch of the accelerator. In his trip, he signaled University Hospital's strong commitment to the partnership and to support of scholars across the US and UK. He and the UH board know well that taking on the cause of rare disease discovery globally is a massive commitment. But Cliff has led with the mindset that the world's big ideas are the ones most worth doing. In 2002, following his fellowship training at MGH in otolaryngology, Cliff co-founded the cochlear implant program at UH, which became world leading, helping over 1,500 deaf patients receive the gift of hearing. He's been CEO of the system since 2021. Cliff has published over 120 peer-reviewed works, co-edited the major textbook in his field, also serving as visiting professor at institutions worldwide. Here he is to say more.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. You called me a scientist. I would say I'm a junior varsity scientist in this room of varsity and senior varsity scientists. So thank you for allowing me to have at least that designation. I can't compete with the work that's being done by your team and those who are truly Harrington scholars. But I don't think anyone can argue who was here last year. The list of accomplishments have been accomplished by the Institute, the Harrington Discovery Institute, is tremendously impressive over just 1 year's time. And after listening to the considerable list, I feel so proud that the Harrington Discovery Institute's home is at University Hospitals and seen as a launching pad for a groundbreaking discovery. We all share the common passion, and that is to provide more, better treatments and options for patients. I believe that research and this sort of work provides hope, and what patients really need is hope. And ultimately, this ability and this genius of a concept of creating the Harrington Discovery Institute that is able to spread locally, nationally, now internationally, I think is coming to fruition. I'd really like to extend a really warm welcome to the members of the Harrington Discovery community, both here in Cleveland, our international friends and colleagues, the Harrington scholars, the advisory board members, the Harrington family, of course, partners from pharma, colleagues from Advent, life sciences, and also our partners, our new partners and brothers in arms and sisters in arms from University of Oxford, philanthropists, grateful patients, and valued friends. Please know, I think that your participation today is a critical component of the scientific process going forward. Ultimately, the totality of the minds that Jonathan has collected are going to create, I think, a formidable force for good. We're already seeing it, and I think it's going to be accelerated in the years to come with our new partnerships. I just have a few brief comments that hopefully will put the next 2 days into context. In deciding which aspect of Harrington Discovery to discuss with you today, there were very many choices, and many of them that you've heard from Jonathan. But there's one program in particular I'd like to focus on in the next few minutes, and that is obviously the very exciting therapeutic accelerator that we are so proud to partner with Oxford University, that being the Rare Disease Center. And why I think everyone at University Hospitals, for those who don't know a little bit about University Hospitals, it's an organization that's been here since 1866. It's grown to encompass 21 hospitals, 32,000 caregivers, close to 6,000 physicians work here, and our research accomplishments are amazing. So there's tremendous pride, if you will, in those who work at University Hospitals, the med students, the residents, our partner medical schools, in the fact that we now have this rare disease accelerator. When I traveled to the UK last fall for the launch, I was amazingly impressed by the commitment of everyone in the project. That list includes Matthew Wood, professor at the University of Oxford and director of the Oxford Harrington Rare Disease Center, who really was instrumental in developing the first ever FDA-approved treatments for Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. At the same time, obviously, you've heard we met with former UK Prime Minister, now Sir David Cameron, and of course, Sir John Bell, who are really instrumental in helping the team ideate this collaboration. I really was impressed with the professionalism, the expertise, and the shared mission to benefit humankind, and really made us believe, and was a very easy sell for our board, that the goal of delivering 40 new, potentially life-changing therapeutics in the realm of rare diseases over the next 10 years is something that we have to devote our energies to. As I returned home to Cleveland from being in the UK and got back to UH, I reflected on the initiative. Targeting rare diseases really means a lot in human terms for people and for our UH patients and for our greater community as a whole. As a physician and someone who was a otolaryngologist, but specifically a neurotologist dealing with disorders of the inner ear, doesn't really seem to be that transformative, but let me tell you, it is. People struggling with the rare diseases, I take care of simple things like Meniere's disease. No one even knows what's going on. Rare disease, just 0.2% of the population. Devastating, can ruin one's life. Usher syndrome type 3, blindness and deafness at the same time. Still no real advancements, but we know these kind of things can be done. So as a physician and surgeon, I was behind this really hook, line, and sinker. What I've learned in treating patients with rare conditions is that they are urgently seeking help. And sometimes, if that is not necessarily yet a drug or a treatment, but there's hope. And the hope is what, in part, this organization, the Harrington Discovery Institute, and our partnership with Oxford is delivering. Sometimes just the hope that there may be something coming and there's really smart people working on it can buoy a patient or a family from being, if you will, forlorn for a long time, or being energized that there's potentially light at the end of the tunnel. And make no mistake, that in and of itself is tremendously transformative to people. While healthcare institutions, pharmaceutical companies, and the global healthcare industry are incredibly effective in researching and implementing new treatments for the most common conditions, the same incentives sometimes don't align with rare diseases. We know that. That can leave patients without options, families without hope, which they don't understand why new treatments are not being undertaken. I believe this effort is going to help in many of those arenas. It can also leave providers like myself and others feeling a little bit of empowerment when they otherwise felt powerless. None of us dedicated to our mission, which we all as healers, is to none of us like roadblocks. And so if this just in a little way is going to release some roadblocks in people, it's going to be helpful. So with the challenges that I've outlined, they're absolutely considerable. But here at UH, the Harrington Discovery Institute, we are not content with the status quo. We know that all of us in healthcare, including the physician scientist community, can not be content, and we have to attack rare diseases. The work is not easy. Rare disease is one of medicine's greatest challenges, and although these largely genetic conditions affect more people than one may think, only 5%, can you believe it, only 5%, if you will, have any FDA treatments. The bottom line is that a person living today with a rare disease faces, I think, lifelong, often life-threatening and life-altering conditions with little hope for a cure. So I am very hopeful and confident, or else I wouldn't have been behind this effort, that the combined efforts of the Harrington Discovery Institute and, if you will, Oxford together is going to be a great start. This sense of urgency, I think, is important. And in my role as CEO, sometimes people will ask me, why are you supporting that new accelerator through the Harrington Discovery Institute? The answer is simple and should be simple. We're inspired by our patients. We're bound by our oath to heal. And this world-class accelerator, I think, is going to be something that we can hold out as a real, if you will, lifeline for our patients, getting, if you will, to the bottom of some of these diseases. And the good news is we already have some traction. So in closing, I'd like to recognize everyone at the Harrington Discovery Institute, those who are making this important work possible. And you saw just a glimpse of a few of them in the advisory boards and everyone who's behind the scenes. The list is long. The advisory boards, the Therapeutic Development Center, the Investment Advisory Board, the review committees, the partners. Through your efforts, I think you identify in advance and create the best of the best to be devoted to these activities. I'd also like to thank Jonathan Stamler and the Harrington leadership team in particular, who are relentless and unrelenting, and believe me, I know it, in their push for the necessary resources, the sources of funding, the sources of attention to continue to fuel this discovery network. Whatever the condition, whether it be cancer, Alzheimer's, heart disease, or Meniere's disease, which is what I worked on, patients and families desperately need treatments, and they now have a true ally in the Harrington Discovery Institute and our new partners at Oxford. So over the course of the symposium, the status updates, the presentations, we will hear many things, I think, that will pick our curiosity and cause us to think about things in a different way. And I hope that happens, and that's by design. Creativity unleashed through exposure to new ideas is always something that is refreshing. So I want to thank you.